Hi everyone, this is a presentation on the observational study we conducted on monkey behavior with observers and bus tourists. My name is Jillian Cole.
My name is Amber Gauthier.
And my name is Jessica Hill.
So, this study was conducted in May 2018 on the rock of British Gibraltar. Certain areas of the rock have high concentrations of tourist activity, and Barbary macaques are a species of monkey present on the rock. Our research question was, does the behavior of Barbary macaques differ depending on the presence of observers or bus tourists? We believe this study is important and of interest to research as it brings awareness to how humans impact wildlife. Additionally, we wanted to know whether or not the large crowds specifically affected the behaviors of Barbary macaques. Our method of measurement was time interval sampling. This method is a method of measurement in which a particular amount of time is designated for observation, and the experimenters scan the area for behaviors occurring during the interval. We marked these behaviors on ethograms by tally mark in specific categories to be discussed later in this presentation.
Since the study was focused on behavioral observations, we made a list of categories for these behaviors. Our behavior classifications included aversive, hostile, investigative, neutral, and social behaviors. Aversive behaviors include running away and or retreating from the present situation. Although we classified displacement here, it was brought to our attention that it should be considered hostile or perhaps in a category all its own. Hostile behaviors include making a threatening round mouth O face as seen in the image, or aggressing another monkey or human. Investigative behaviors include approaching tourists, exploring vehicles, and messing with the tourists' things. Neutral behaviors include resting and being indifferent to tourist presence. And social behaviors include grooming, lip smacking, playing, and sexual presentations.
So, Barbary macaques' behaviors were expected to change depending on the presence or absence of bus tourists. Specifically, we expected the monkeys to be more social with each other in the presence of quiet observers, but not bus tourists, and that they would display more investigative and hostile behaviors when the bus tourists were present. We expected these tendencies of behavior because we thought the monkeys might be interested in the tourists and less focused on other monkeys when the bus tourists were present. We also expected that there would be either no difference or very little in aversive behaviors, as we expected that monkeys would either avoid tourists or other monkeys at any given moment.
The following three pictures show Barbary macaques from a military base. Because they live near a military base, they have little to no tourist exposure. Although we did not include these monkeys' behaviors in our final results, it is important to acknowledge the differences in behavior between these and the apes' den macaques for comparison's sake. These macaques on the military base, alarm called at the sight of a crowd, began to surround our visiting group and kept a close watch and distance throughout our visit. This behavior was different from that observed of the macaques at the apes' den.
One of the conditions during which we collected data had only a few walking tourists and observers. For a total of roughly 1 hour over the course of 3 days, we observed the macaques at the apes' den and recorded instances of behavior changes. For example, if a macaque goes from resting to grooming, this is recorded as becoming a social behavior. In the first image, 3 monkeys were engaged in social grooming, seemingly indifferent to the presence of the observer. The same goes for the second image, in which a macaque is resting while being observed. Even during times when they were eating, such as in the third picture, the macaques remained indifferent towards the observers.
The same procedure used for the observers and walking tourist condition was applied to the bus tourist condition as well. As seen by the pictures shown, the environment of the site drastically changed regarding human presence. The first picture shows a woman crowding the macaque while trying to take a picture. The macaque interacts with her by playing with her hair, but is not seen alarm calling or exhibiting hostile behavior, unlike what we predicted. The next photo shows a woman standing standing close to the macaque. However, the macaque is seemingly unaffected by her presence. Instead, the macaque continues to lay around. The last photo shows a crowd of tourists surrounding two monkeys that are social grooming. Unlike how the monkeys at the military base reacted with just a crowd of people were present at a safe distance, these monkeys maintained their social grooming, seemingly unfazed by the crowd in front of them.
This graph displays our results. We averaged the totals in each behavioral category per day and then averaged them again for a grand total. This was done for our two conditions of having the observers present, shown in blue, or having the bus tourists present, shown in orange.
Specifically, in the presence of observers, higher numbers of hostile behaviors, lower numbers of aversive behaviors, lower numbers of investigative behaviors, lower numbers of neutral behaviors, and higher number of social behaviors were recorded compared to the number of behaviors observed in the presence of bus tourists. One of the main discrepancies in this data is the number of neutral behaviors observed. We saw more time of an interval dedicated to laying around versus social behavior. However, this is not reflected in our data. A possible explanation could be that our method of recording changing behaviors was conducive to the frequency of behaviors, but not the duration. The graph reports roughly equal amounts of behaviors. However, we noticed the macaques were more physically active when bus tourists were present.
We noticed higher presentations of inter-macaque interaction, which we recorded earlier in the week when tourism levels were slightly lower. We noticed these particular trends because the tourism levels increased as the week went on, most likely because people were able to take off work and go on vacations or tourist activities later in the week. Compared to macaques at the military base, those lower on the rock were greatly desensitized to human presence and disturbance. We expect that this is true because people are not really allowed at the military base, and those monkeys which reside at the military base were most likely less able to become desensitized due to the lack of people. Additionally, those monkeys which reside at the ape stand lower on the rock were more likely greatly desensitized to human presence and disturbance because the ape stand is a place of high tourist activity. Overall, there was a noticeable change in behavioral activity of macaques regarding the presence of observers or bus tourists. We had some limitations to our study as well. Some limitations include lack of random assignment, which is when the experimenters were unable to randomly assign monkeys to groups, such as the apes den or those who reside at the military base at the top of the rock. Additionally, we had a lack of inter-rater reliability. Inter-rater reliability is when the experimenter. Another limitation to our observational experiment was a lack of inter-rater reliability. Inter-rater reliability is the reliability of experimenters to record data in the same fashion as other experimenters in the study. We also had a lack of internal validity, which is the ability of a study's results to generalize to other populations. In our study, we also had ambiguous temporal precedence, where we could not precisely determine the cause and effect within the study. Perhaps the monkeys were affected by populations surrounding them, or perhaps other things surrounding them caused their differences in behavior. And thus changed the way they behaved as a result of what we expected. And we had a selection bias in which some monkeys and people were more animated and often drew our attention more than less animated ones. Thank you for watching our presentation, and we hope you enjoyed it.